Before we begin, if you enjoy real-life stories that stay with you long after the video ends, stories that make you question things you thought you understood about love, time, and connection, then make sure you subscribe to the channel because what you're about to hear is not just a story. It's a moment, a mistake, and a feeling that changes everything. I'm 61 years old, and for most of my life, I've been the kind of woman people describe with words like respectable, calm, and dependable. The kind of woman who doesn't cause trouble, who doesn't chase attention, who doesn't make mistakes. I lived quietly, carefully the way you're supposed to. I was polite even when I didn't feel like it. I smiled even when I was tired, and I learned over time how to take up just enough space without ever being too much. Love, for me, became something distant, not gone, just out of reach. Like a book you once read years ago, you remember the feeling it gave you, but not the details anymore. My husband passed away 5 years ago, and when he did, people said all the things they're supposed to say. Time heals, you'll find peace, you're strong. And I nodded because that's what you do. But what they don't tell you is that after a certain age, grief doesn't always feel loud sometimes. It's quiet. It settles into your routines. It sits beside you in the evenings. It becomes part of the air in your home. My days became predictable. Work home, teas, old movies I'd already seen a dozen times. I'd sit in the same chair, with the same blanket, watching the same scenes unfold on the screen. And somehow, that sameness felt safe. My garden became my small escape, trimming leaves, watering flowers, watching things grow, while I stayed exactly the same. I wasn't unhappy, but I wasn't alive either. I truly believed. Those kinds of feelings were behind me, the kind where your heart races for no reason, where someone looks at you and you feel seen. I thought that part of my life had ended quietly, without ceremony, until a few weeks ago something happened. Something I still haven't fully made sense of, and if I'm being honest, it unsettled me more than anything has in years, because I never thought not, at my age, not in my life, that I could make a mistake like this. It was raining that evening, not the kind of storm that feels violent or chaotic, but a slow, steady rain, the kind that softens everything, the kind that makes the world feel quieter, almost reflective. I had stayed late at the office, going over numbers my team had miscalculated. Earlier that day, everyone else had already gone home. The building felt hollow too. Quiet, even the fluorescent lights seemed dimmer than usual. My boss had already left for a dinner meeting, but before he did, he called me, said his son would be stopping by to give me a ride home. I almost refused, not because I didn't need the ride, but because I've spent most of my life avoiding inconvenience, especially when it comes to younger people. I didn't want to feel like a responsibility. Umbrella barely holding against the wind, heels clicking softly against the wet pavement. I saw it. A black SUV, parked right near the entrance, and leaning casually beside it, was Jason. I'd met him before a handful of times, company picnics, holiday events, always in passing, always polite, but I'd never really noticed him, not the way I did that night. He saw me immediately, straightened up, jogged over, rain soaking into his hoodie, darkening the fabric at the shoulders. "Hey, Miss Collier," he said, smiling, that kind of smile that feels effortless. "Need a ride?" I hesitated for just a second, then smiled back. "Just Diane," I said softly, "and thank you." The car was warm, a contrast to the cold air outside. It smelled faintly of leather, and something citrusy.clean.com. He adjusted the mirrors, started the engine, and pulled onto the road with an ease that felt almost practiced. "I hope this isn't too much trouble," I said, folding my hands in my lap. He glanced at me briefly. There was something in his expression, something I couldn't quite read. Not at all, he said. A small pause. Honestly, I kind of needed the drive. We drove in silence after that, just the sound of the rain and the steady rhythm of the wipers moving back and forth the city. Lights reflected across the wet road, stretching into long, blurred lines. Everything felt slower, quieter, and without realizing it, I found myself looking at him, the way his jaw tightened when he focused, the way his fingers rested lightly on the steering wheel, the faint dimple that appeared when something on the radio amused him. Small things, insignificant, really. And yet, I noticed them. You've worked with my dad for a long time, right? He asked suddenly. Almost 20 years, I replied. He nodded. He talks about you a lot. I laughed softly. Well, someone has to keep things running, smiled. But this time, it didn't quite reach his eyes. And that's when I felt something shifting, something building beneath the surface. There was a pause, not an awkward one, but the kind that feels like something is about to be said, something important, something that once spoken can't be taken back. Jason's grip on the wheels shifted slightly. His thumb tapped once, twice. Then he exhaled. Slowly, he doesn't really know me, he said. Not defensive, not bitter, just honest. I turned slightly toward him. What do you mean? For a moment I thought he might brush it off, change the subject, but instead, he slowed the car, and then he pulled over. We had stopped near a small park. The rain had softened to a faint drizzle now, barely touching the windshield. Streetlights cast a dim golden glow across the empty pavement. Inside the car, everything felt still, contained, like the world had stepped back. Just for this moment. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I know this is strange. I didn't respond right away, not because I didn't want to, but because something in his tone told me this wasn't going to be a simple conversation. I wasn't planning to say anything, he continued. I've actually tried not to. A small, almost self-conscious smile flickered across his face, then disappeared. But sometimes, holding something in for too long, he glanced at me. Starts to feel worse than saying it out loud. And then he said it. I wasn't sure I heard him correctly. The words didn't land all at once. They echoed, settled, shifted something inside me I didn't even know was still there. I know how that sounds, he added quickly. You're older. You work with my dad. I get all of that. His voice stayed calm, measured, not impulsive, not careless. I've just noticed you. At those company events, you're never trying to be the center of attention, but somehow, you still are. I felt my chest tighten. He continued. The way you carry yourself, it's not loud, it's not showy, it's steady. Like you know exactly who you are, even if no one else takes the time to see it. I couldn't speak, because I didn't want to, but because no one had ever described me like that before, not even my husband. Not in words like these. I don't expect anything, he said gently. I just needed you to know. A small pause. You matter, and you deserve to hear that from someone who actually sees it. The rain had stopped completely now. The only sound left was the soft hum of the engine, and my own. Heartbeat, loud, unsteady, unfamiliar. It wasn't just what he said, it was what it awakened. A feeling I had buried so deeply. I had convinced myself it no longer existed. The desire to be seen not as a memory, not as someone's past, but as I was right now. I finally looked at him, really, looked. His eyes weren't demanding, they weren't expecting anything in return. They were simply open, honest, and somehow that made everything harder. He didn't move closer, didn't reach for my hand, didn't try to blur the moment into something else. Instead, he simply started the car again and drove. When we reached my house, he stepped out, opened my door, just like before, polite, respectful, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. but everything had. I stood in my foyer long after he left, coat still on, shoes still damp. Staring at the closed door. The house looked exactly the same walls, the same furniture, the same quiet, but something inside me was no longer the same. I didn't sleep. That night, not really. I kept replaying it, his voice, his words, "You matter." Such a simple sentence, and yet it unsettled me more than anything else. The next morning, everything felt off, familiar but distant, like I was moving through my own life. From the outside, I poured my coffee, fed my cat, opened the curtains, but my mind kept drifting back to that moment. A few days later, he texted, "Hope I didn't make things weird. I'm sorry if I crossed a line." I stared at the message longer than I'd like to admit. I just need time to think. When I saw him again, it wasn't planned, but somehow, it felt inevitable. He was waiting outside again, leaning against that same SUV, but this time, he wasn't as relaxed. "You meant what you said?" I asked. Quietly, he didn't hesitate. Every word. I took a breath, slow, careful. "This isn't simple." "I know," he said. I looked at him for a long moment, and then I said, the only thing that felt true. "You made me feel something I thought I had lost." A pause, and for that I'm grateful. But feelings alone aren't always enough. His expression didn't fall. If anything, he seemed to understand. "I spent years building a life that made sense," I continued, "and I can't undo that, not without consequences." Another pause. Still capable of feeling, still visible. He nodded. No anger, no regret, just quiet understanding. And then he smiled. Not the same easy smile from before, something softer, something real. Some moments in life don't change your path, but they change you, and sometimes that's enough.